Okay, so I'm joined here today by Emile Nuh. Emile, thank you for joining me.
No worries, no worries. Thank you for having me.
So you're currently working for CNN, that's right? So tell me a bit how you got into that.
So, this is funny because this is actually the third year that I applied for the CNN internship. So, applied 2 years ago when I was still doing my master's degree, kind of knowing that I probably wouldn't get it, but I was like, just throw my hat in the ring anyway. Didn't even get past the first stage. And then last year applied again, got through to like the second stage, but didn't get kind of through to the interview stage. And then this year, applied again, took it a lot more seriously, like, with all like the high view questions, which is like kind of the second part. And yeah, got to interview, was very nervous for the interview, but just prepared well, to be honest. And it's weird because when I left the interview, like a lot of people always say this, and it's a cliche, but it's kind of true. Like sometimes you leave an interview, you think you've done really well, and you don't get it.
Yeah.
And when I left this interview, I was like, I don't know how I done there. I feel like I could have said more. But when I left, I was on Old Street and I sat on a chair just having like a pastry, and a bird did shit on my shoulder. So I was like, okay, yeah, maybe that is good luck, and I got it. So
Yeah.
I thanked that bird.
Didn't think that was the lucky.
Yeah, I was a
lucky
lucky
shot.
child. So that is a true thing. It is good luck if a bird does poop on you. Like,
I never heard that one before.
oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah,
right.
no.
Yeah.
But then in terms of before that, so you were saying your master's degree, just tell us a bit, like, we just spoke about it before, but in terms of your university journey and then how you ended up at CNN, what sort of things you had before that.
Yeah, so before that, well, like I'll go from, like I said, initially I done a law degree. So I went to Bristol U, done a law degree. But the thing is, when I done a law degree, I never done a law degree because I was like, I want to be a solicitor. It was just kind of, I was born and raised in Cardiff in Wales, but like my family's originally from Cameroon, and like, in the African community, it's kind of like, law, engineering, medicine, pick your poison. You got to do like a really big academic degree.
Yeah.
So I done law, and then basically COVID hit in my second year of uni, so around that March time, second year, so kind of dead in the middle of my undergrad. And like I always say, COVID's the best thing that happened to me because it made me have time to sit and reflect and think, what do I actually want to do? And I knew it wasn't law, but then I had 1 year left. I just had to finish it. And then when I finished, I just had to do what you have to do and get a job. But even from that moment, I knew I didn't want to do law, and I wanted to do journalism, and specifically sports journalism. So then, yeah, I applied to do the Masters at St. Mary's University in Twickenham. But basically, it's funny, I just said I applied 3 times for CNN. I actually had to apply twice for St. Mary's because the first year I applied, which would have been the 22-23 academic year, I didn't have any samples of journalism, hadn't done anything, hadn't written anything. So I was like, okay, I went away, started a blog on Instagram with my mate, where we just used to react to sports news, multi-sport. It was called After Extra Time. And it was like kind of like a digital sports diary. We got a lot into it. Used to like, put little dates on the posts and kind of like do like kind of funny captions. Sometimes we covered serious topics, but just kind of lighthearted. And then, yeah, applied again, then got into St. Mary's. And then from there, university was important. And I know we're in a uni now, and I'm not like kind of discrediting uni, but alongside my sports journalism master's degree and the NCTJ diploma, it was definitely the connections I made in uni, which were like invaluable. So then when I left and I came back to Cardiff, I used my network and reached out to people and kind of, had a lot of chats and coffees with people. But then, where I met you, like at the, the rugby game, reached out to, the WRU, the FAW. I went to the Autosport Awards with Formula One, just literally off just sending an email. Because I always say, if you don't ask, you don't get. And you'd be surprised what you can get in this industry if you just ask and just put yourself out there. So then I got the opportunity at The Athletic because on Boxing Day, so it was Boxing Day 2024, we had an email from Laura Williamson, so she's the editor-in-chief, and they had a new role that they were advertising called an editorial associate. Almost forgot it then. Sounded nice, doesn't it? Editorial associate, it sounds nice. And they only sent it to around 20 people who had gone to the Talent ID Day. I was a bit of a shame because, it was Boxing Day. I was just about to go to the pub with my mates and I was like, oh, flip it out. I've got this to do. But I'm so glad I'd done it. So, yes, sent my CV and cover letter. And obviously my chances were quite good anyway because they only sent it to an exclusive group of people. And then they came back on New Year's Eve now when I'm about to, go out again with my mates. And they're like, okay, yeah, there was like a task that we had to do. Basically listen to a podcast, pick out the best section. NFL, actually. It was about Brian DeBull when he was the New York Giants coach. And they basically put out a statement saying we're retaining head coach Brian DeBull, and obviously he ended up leaving the next season after, as we know. But it was around that. They were like, pick out the best section and then write a little piece, and they liked it. And then, I found out like the week after I got it. So that was, and then I was there till July 25. So just under a year ago. So that was like kind of the precursor to me being a CNN.
Okay. And was there a reason you left, or was it, like there was a contract and your time was up, or was it just wanting to move on to something new?
Well, basically, so, I learned the harsh realities of the industry early, I'd say, because basically signed a year contract. So it was January 2025 to meant to be to December 25. And then basically what happened is that, so because the Athletic's owned by the New York Times, obviously football's king with the Athletic, like based in the UK, in London, but the NFL's still massive for them because they've got a massive American audience, obviously, being owned by the New York Times. So the NFL season was coming to, well, it ended in February, but then the Premier League was also coming to an end, and those are their two biggest hitters. So I was like basically a contractor. So I done 5 days a week work full time, but I basically had like a day rate that I used to get. And then coming up to June, so end of May, they were like, we'll probably bring your days down from 5 to 3 because they just won't be as much kind of about because Premier League and NFL aren't on.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, fine. And then I remember I went away to Paris. I went on holiday because it's been an intense first 6 months in the industry. It felt a lot longer than 6 months. Went to Paris and then came back and they just said, listen, like, budgeting issues, which you hear in a lot of places in the sports media in the UK. They're like, yeah, we're running tight on budget. So they're like, yeah, we're going to have to let you go early. So I was like, yeah, fine. But then they still gave me another month just so it wasn't kind of like just, we're letting you know today and then next week you're kind of out of work kind of thing. So they told me that in the beginning of June. And then, I ended the beginning of July. So, and then, after that, it was a bit of a weird one after that because then I had to think, okay, what do you do now? So again, I kind of just used the same kind of strategy I used when I'd finished my master's degree where, again, reached out to people. Some of them asking, have you got anything on? Some of them just reaching out to people just so they kind of remember, Emile's, it still exists, still about, because, it's out of sight, out of mind kind of thing sometimes. So, just applied for roles. Still kept on doing like freelance stuff. Got like a kind of job in the interim, just working at a school, like a special school, just with kids like ADHD, ADD, that kind of thing. And then the CNN thing came up, which I applied for. Funnily enough, I actually got to like a final stage interview for another role at the Athletic.
Okay.
But before, so this would have been around. So I ended there in July. This was probably around August, September time. I'm coming back to when I said some interviews you think you've done really well, you don't get it. And CNN, I didn't think I'd done that well, and I got it. That interview, I left out. I was like, I smashed that interview. Like, surely I'm gonna get it, but I didn't get that one. So, anyway, still put one foot in for the other. Didn't let it like kind of get me down, kind of thing. And got the CNN thing today. So, just grateful for it.
And then in terms of, you said you had some other freelance stuff as well. What sort of stuff you've been doing there?
It was just kind of like writing pieces. So I'd write pieces. Still, was still pitching stuff to the Athletic.
Okay.
Mainly for them because I thought to myself, at the end of the day, I don't want to kind of throw a strop and be like, oh, they let me go. Like, don't want to see them ever again. I thought, let me just do what I can to just kind of maintain the relationship with them, kind of thing. It was mainly just doing stuff for them. I went to kind of this festival, which is probably not very known. It's called Bankfest. It was all the way in kind of like by Cornwall. And I was like a guest speaker there.
Okay.
So I done that. Like I made a post about it on my LinkedIn because it was a bit different, but I thought, you know what, let me
I think I've seen that actually, yeah.
Yeah. I just thought, let me just branch out. So went there and it was basically like A-level kids.
Okay.
So they kind of interviewed me on my journey and then I'd done a little workshop with them where I was basically talking to them about what I do. And then also, what goes into like writing a story and how to get ideas as well. And then like a fun little exercise called like Who Am I and Things I Know that I'd done during my master's degree at St. Mary's, which really helped, like really worked well for me. So I thought, and they seemed to enjoy it as well. Told them a bit about my personal journey. And it wasn't like a sports specific thing. It was more like a writing thing. But again, like it never hurts to like branch out and meet people because you just never know when you might need a contact or when you might, journalism, you kind of touch every kind of piece of, the world in a sense of journalism because one day you might be doing a story on, I just did a story on Denmark and Greenland. I was speaking to people in Greenland and speaking to like Greenland's football captain and people in Greenland, and now I'm doing a story on Congo and I'm reaching out to Congolese. Like you just don't, you never know. Like, so, that's the beauty of it. That's why I love it. It keeps me like mentally stimulated rather than doing the same thing. I feel like every story I do, you're an expert at that topic for the duration of time that you're doing it. So it keeps it fun and keeps it different.
And it's good to just have like a broad knowledge on everything. Like, is that something you'd say in terms of sports wise? Like, for someone like me, like the rest of my course mates coming out, would you try and focus on one sport, or would you just keep it like really broad in terms of your knowledge of all sports?
I'd say that what I've realized is that, like, before I came into the industry, I was like football, Formula One. I liked my NBA, but like those are kind of the main two. But what I've noticed is that even people that are specialists in a sport, like for instance, Adi Oladipo, for instance, with boxing, he's a boxing commentator, one of the biggest ones, DAZN. He's the face of it. But I mean, he went to Dubai and done a Masters tennis, ATP Masters tennis tournament. He does some darts events as well. Because, I've bumped into him multiple times in TalkSport and he says to me, he's like the bigwig of boxing, but sometimes even just having one sport, if we want to like talk practically now, you probably boost your earning potential knowing more sports, but then you just boost the opportunities you can get. Because I think definitely it's good to be an expert at a sport, like no doubt. But I think it's never going to hurt you to broaden your knowledge on more sports. I think even like me now to this day, and like from being at The Athletic and being at CNN now, you realize that you do need to have multi-sport knowledge. And even if you don't like a sport, you just need to kind of know what the main topics or talking points are within the sport. And like, for instance, like with you, like, saying that you like your NFL, that's a great one to have, I think. Like, I think it really is a great one to have because it's still, the NBA is like more international than the NFL, right? So like, it's probably, I think the NBA is easier to clue yourself up on than the NFL. Because the NFL is just a bit more intricate. Obviously, teams are bigger. It's not as like, it's just more. I just feel there's more depth to it, and it's something that I don't feel. Yeah, they do the NFL games in London and stuff, but I feel it's still not as big in the UK as NBA, or people at least that I've come across don't know as much about it.
I suppose it's because it's American football and it's only really played in America. Whereas basketball, you get players from France, Greece, like all these different places. So
exactly, yeah.
It's more of a global game, definitely.
100%. And they call it football, and we're like, no, ours is football. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, no, definitely, like, to answer the question, like, 100%, I think it definitely helps. Like, with me, football and Formula One, I know well, but again, at The Athletic, I wrote about the NFL. I wrote about American sports more than British sports. I mean, I wrote about NFL and NBA much more than any other sport, daily. NFL, American football, and then soccer, if I wrote for that. Our football. Those are the three that I wrote the most about. And at CNN now, I mean, when we have our daily meetings, there was just the NCAA college basketball just happened. And on our meetings, like, trust me, they don't play when it comes to their college basketball. Honestly, they love it. Like, they love it. So you realize that, you need to have multi-sport knowledge now with the Masters going on right now with golf. I'm not a golf fan, but I just kind of know the main storylines that are going on. And there's that, is it called a Gnome or whatever? There's a little doll that people are just obsessed with. Like I just know the broad kind of talking points in more sports kind of thing, I'd say.
And then you were saying about when you were writing at The Athletic. So when you were doing that, from kind of research I've done, it was more of like you were taking, like you said with the interview, like podcast things and kind of turning them into short articles. Is that similar to what you're doing now at CNN, or is it more like features writing now?
Yeah, but that's what I really do love about what I'm doing at CNN now, because it's features heavy. It's like, it's to me what like is journalism. Like and what I like about it as well is that, like, I bring a story to them and they've started, I think, they liked my stories, received well internally, thankfully. And now they've been coming to me with some stories. So like, but, it's very featurey. I'm assigned a story. I go out, look for the interviewees, reach out to people, speak to people. On the way here now, there's a Congolese journalist, so I just sent him some questions. He's going to send me some answers. I'm going to the Sideman charity game in Wembley next weekend, and I'm doing a. This is an early access thing over here because but yeah, doing a story on that. So I'm gonna speak to hopefully some of the sidemen and do a story around how influencers taking over sport because with the boxing, Jake Paul fighting Joshua, they're everywhere now, aren't they? So, but what I like about it is that it's because with CNN, because it's predominantly a news company, for sports stories, the bar is quite high in the sense that like they like the featurey stuff.
Yeah.
So they like. I'm a Chelsea fan. Chelsea are playing Man City this weekend, but CNN would never do a story where it's like reacted to Chelsea Man City. They're like all the kind of big hard hitting stories. So maybe say it was to do with they ran a story of Italy not getting to the World Cup first time in 3 years when the Iran US stuff happened. Now a story on whether Iran are going to participate in the World Cup, could they boycott? But they like the featurey stuff.
Yeah.
And they've like the featurey stuff as well. But the role I was in didn't allow me really to do the featurey stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas this role, they encouraged me to, pitch, give us ideas. And when if I give an idea and they like it, they really kind of leave you to your devices and trust you to get it done.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I like a feature. When you've written a feature and the name's on it, it's rewarding. You feel proud. Like it's a lot of work goes into it, but like I really do like the process of doing it. So yeah, it's featurey.
But it's good to know that, there's those sort of roles like the one you had at The Athletic where it might not be exactly kind of what someone like me would want to like aspire to necessarily. I would love to do that. I'd snap that opportunity up. It's just good to know that kind of there's those sort like outside of feature writing, there are other things,
100%. And I think was good, like even when I was at The Athletic, I think what I'd found good in this industry in general is that like you don't have to kind of hide your aspirations. So like even though I was in that role, they knew that like I'd soon hopefully want to do something else where maybe I can, get out on the ground to more places, speak to more people, interview people, do longer form stuff, do video stuff. They knew that. So like, I didn't feel like I had to hide and pretend like this is what I wanted to do for the next, 2, 3, 4, 5 years kind of thing. So, and that's what I found like good about the industry in general. I feel like everyone knows that everyone's like kind of motivated to get to the next thing and take the next step kind of thing. And for instance, say like I would have stayed there to the end of 2025 and I was still there now. I have no doubt that I definitely would have been doing something else or in a different role where, I would have still been writing, but maybe it would have been, okay, I get to do more longer form stuff now. Okay, or maybe I get to, it wouldn't happen, but like say hypothetically, okay, maybe you can be a beat writer for, I try to lean into being Welsh, so Wrexham now. If Wrexham were to get promoted, okay, maybe I put my hand up and say, okay, I'm happy to go down to Wrexham and do some beat writing and reporting on Wrexham. Because they have a new story coming up now with the Ryan Reynolds and all that kind of stuff. So just going back to what you said, trying to not say I'm a specialist on this, but like use whatever point of difference you have to try and be like, okay, yeah, this is why I should do that kind of thing.
Yeah. So for example, like me going over to Canada potentially, you think it would be worth maybe sort of leaning into that and saying, I've got better knowledge on the Premier League or something. If they wanted that sort of coverage, it might seem a bit more, knowledgeable coming from a British person rather than a Canadian person.
100%, I think 100%. And it's funny, like and for instance, I know in Canada the main sport is ice hockey. For instance, like I know that's the big one. So like even you with your NFL knowledge, you could go there and say, okay, I'm going there and I'm going to say, if you need NFL and if you need Premier League writing, I'm your man. Let me know kind of thing. Do you get what I mean? Because, and it's funny because that will probably be like beneficial for you going over there because for you, it's just natural. The time difference will be crazy. So yeah, you won't be able to watch as many games, but you have that knowledge of those sports. So you'll be able to use that to be like, okay, this is why you should choose me for that. And even at CNN now, for instance, we have some anchors. I mean, we have an anchor called Don Riddell. We have some producers over there. We have guys on America who are based in Atlanta, Georgia, but they're Brits. And they lean in sometimes to the kind of, the sport, like the American guys. There's enough going on in America for them to not have to kind of care about UK sports.
Yeah.
So, you going over as a Brit, like over there, you'll be able to like really lean on that heavily. Premier League, it's funny because over here, a lot of people that love sport do love the football, not everyone. But for you, you'll be able to go and use that as a point of difference where
Yeah.
football in the UK is so saturated. Football's king. Everyone loves football. Everyone wants to work in football.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, no, that'll be definitely beneficial for you.
Definitely. I just wanted to go back to something a bit before. Just going back to like the start of your journey, you were saying about how you felt kind of forced into law,
Yeah.
or some sort of profession like that. Was it always in the back of your mind that journalism was what you wanted to do, or was it while you were doing law that you realized, or were you a kid growing up thinking this is what I want to do, and then you just felt forced down another path?
Nah, it's a really good question, honestly, because I think with me, what it was is that since I've been young, I've always loved sports.
Yeah.
I just always loved sports. Love playing sports. Used to play football. Used to play rugby. Love watching Formula One and watched all these sports. So, and then I think what happened is that when I got to the age where, because basically when I was 11 years old, I actually went to Cameroon for 2 years for a boarding school in Cameroon. My dad sent me back. I wasn't naughty as well. He wanted me to know where I was from and all that kind of stuff. So, I was born and raised in the UK, lived in Cameroon, and then my first 2 years of secondary school moved to Cameroon to a boarding school. And even when I was at boarding school, I was a bit of an outsider because they kind of viewed you as the privileged kid coming over from the UK, so to speak. And even the thing that allowed me to fit in there was football, playing football and saying, okay, this kid can play football. So like, that's what kind of helped me settle in a way. So I've just always loved sport. And then, when I came back and then finished secondary school and went to college, I remember I took like maths, physics, and business studies, I think it was. And honestly, maths and physics my brain just doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
I
me
very
neither.
quickly realized it. Because I actually done 3 years in sixth form because I dropped those two and then just carried on with business and Welsh back, which we do here. And then in my second year, I was doing second year business and then I took history and sociology. Because I just wanted to go back and do some stuff we enjoyed. So like, I always enjoyed history. My brother did sociology the year before and said he enjoyed it. So I said, I'll just take them. But then what happened is that I feel like I just never was thought enough into what I wanted to do. My dad is an engineer, so I thought, okay, that's why I done the sciencey stuff.
Yeah.
But I quickly realized it wasn't for me. So then what happened is I got to a stage when I was like, we're applying for universities. My brother was in university in Bristol. And, a lot of my mates had gone from then the opposite of you. I know you're just outside of Bristol, but then the opposite where they'd gone to Bristol from Cardiff. And I just thought, okay, I want to be in my mates kind of thing, but I don't know what I want to do. At that point, journalism wasn't on my mind at all. So I just done a law degree just because I thought it was a reputable degree. The skills which I used with like history and sociology should be similar. So that's why I took it. And then when it got to the stage when I really realized I didn't want to do law, I wouldn't even say I was thinking about journalism then. I was just like, I know I don't want to do law. And then I was like, okay, what can I actually do in my life? And I just think I came to a stage when the tactic I use is, okay, when I'm just on a normal day, say I have nothing to do, what will I fill time with? And I always used to fill my time with Sky Sports News was on the TV all day, every day. And, I'd always be watching ESPN First Take with like Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, all that kind of stuff. Fox with like Nick Wright and Chris Broussard and all that kind of stuff. Like I'd always be just watching these sports news channels. And I was like, do you know, that would be pretty cool. And then it got to a stage in like the COVID time, maybe just after in 2021, when I realized like on Sky Sports, for instance, they used to get like, there was an influx of like younger people on screen, I felt like. And, they were allowed to wear their own clothes and be relaxed. And they had all these different shows. And I was like, it seems like it'd be pretty cool to maybe try and do something like that. But then I thought, how the hell do I go about doing that? So, oh my God, it's crazy. As I'm talking, I've reminded myself before I even attempted to go to St. Mary's and apply for the masters. I was trying to apply for internships. So ESPN do this like an editorial internship, which was, I don't know if it's around today, but anyway,
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but it was an internship that ESPN used to do. It was like a year. It's like similar to the BBC one, kind of like you're working, but you kind of study towards the NCTJ.
Yeah.
But again, at this point, I had never done anything to do with journalism, or I had a law degree, yes, but then I was working for an insurance company as a legal indemnity insurance broker and paralegal, so I was never gonna get it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, maybe I need to go back and do a master's, and I was I didn't want to I didn't want to go back to and do a 3-year course or anything like that. So that's why the masters worked well, because it was just a 1-year course. I was like, okay, I can do that September to June. And that's why I applied to do the masters in St. Mary's. And I did put a lot of thinking into it, because like I looked at the alumni, a lot of the alumni in places like Sky Sports, like the BBC. A lot of them have done this internship that I'm doing now. And it's funny, I remember my very first day of St. Mary's, my associate professor was like, one of my students always gets this CNN gig. So yeah, I kind of knew I wanted to do journalism, mainly because I thought sports journalism specifically, because I thought I want to make a profession from my passions. And my biggest passion in life is sports, undoubtedly. And I always just think, okay, if you're not playing sports, what's the next best thing? Writing about it, talking about it, making a living covering it. So that's why, because I thought to myself, like, a lot of my mates are, they, a few of them do accounting, some of them work in sales. And I've had all these like little kind of, let me not call them odd jobs, but I've had a little job in a summer where I've done like a sales gig, and I've done all these kind of things. And I'm the type of person where I'm a bit hard-headed and stubborn with certain things that I care about. And like with my career, I just thought, there's so many people out there doing such cool jobs and like living their dreams. Like, why can't I be one of them? Like, do you get what I mean? Why can't I be someone that, has this life where I'm just basically doing a job, but at the same time, I'm not doing a job where I'm like counting down the days to my retirement day when I can, collect my pension and go right into the sunset. I'm actually doing something that energizes me and that I love. And when I get to retirement age, I'm like, nah, I want to keep doing this thing. Like, do you get what I mean? So, and it was always sports for me. Sports is always my biggest passion. So that's why I was like, okay, if you're not gonna be on the field, I quickly started to learn that there's a whole big industry, behind the cameras and not on the pitch. You don't see it. It's not just the 11 players that contribute to it, or the coaching staff, or like the NFL, just the guys on the field, or with F1, just the guys on track. Like, the media is very valuable, because like at the end of the day, sports need the media as well, because they need the coverage. They need the TV deals. Otherwise, people just won't know about it. So even though sometimes like they can snuff for reporters and things like that, they do need the visibility in a sense.
It's funny because I feel like I had the exact same thing where I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was working a job back home that was just very like, it was leading nowhere. Yeah. And then I got sent this course that I'm currently doing. And I was like, I was kind of the same thing. I was like, all I do is like watch sport, talk about sport, play sport. I was like, it had never really occurred to me before. I see these people on Sky Sports and I was like, it feels unattainable, It's like, oh, they're like the best of the best. There's nothing else other than that, basically, in terms of this industry. But then now I found more kind of what I want to do in terms of writing is my main thing that I enjoy. And just as someone who's done a lot of writing yourself, how would you, it feels like a part of the industry that's being lost a little bit in terms of, video and social media and online stuff. How do you think, like, what's the best way now to kind of break into that in terms of like, it is fading a little bit, I guess. Yeah. What advice would you give to get into the writing side of things?
I mean, it's so funny you say that, because like, I mean, before I came into the industry, I was like, nah, I want to be a broadcaster. I just want to be on TV and all that. The most satisfaction I get is from writing, even just the process. Yeah. And like you said, definitely, I think, people aren't, because we're in the digital age, it's not like kind of maybe 20, I mean, I was about to say 30 years ago, but just 20 years ago when the internet wasn't as big and you had to get your news from whether people still buying newspapers and still, reading a lot more, and rather than just scrolling on videos. But I mean, for instance, I remember I went into the Sun's head offices in London Bridge, and the deputy sports editor, he was saying to me, he was like, don't get me wrong, it's dying down, and like it's not maybe as popular just because there's more options with the digital video stuff now. But he said, people are still, we still sell hundreds of thousands of newspapers. We're doing better than people would think, kind of thing. And like even at the Athletic, for instance, when I was there, that's one of the reasons I liked it, because writing there is still
that's
massive.
All writing, isn't it? Really?
Writing, featurey stuff, and they're behind a paywall as well. But people still do pay for these things. So like if like for you, for instance, like if I was you, I still definitely wouldn't get discredited, or I wouldn't think, oh yeah, there's not a future for me, and like writing is not gonna be a thing. I think generally writing is still gonna be a thing. It might, but I think it's more of a case. Like if you want to look at the glass half full, it's probably just a case now of where, okay, you don't want to just be a writer. Even if you're a writer, okay, you might do more of the on-screen stuff. Like a lot of people in there, like a lot of the athletic writers do. They're all writers, but then the different shows have the different podcasts, and like they'll all lead into the podcast stuff, which again helps the company because they're just on different platforms, but helps the journalist because it gives you another kind of platform to voice your opinion and show your personality a bit, and you're not just kind of a name on a page, but they can see or listen to you speaking about whatever kind of sport or topic it is you're speaking about. So yeah, it's not like 20 or 30 years ago where writing was the kind of the preeminent kind of thing. It was like kind of writing or TV, just because of the advent of social media and people want the stuff quickly. But going back to like when I was talking earlier about doing the feature stuff, I mean, I think that kind of stuff is still like people like it is still valued, and like people still do respect, right? Like there's still a massive respect for it. I think it's still the most respected thing. I remember one of the first things they said to me, "Can you write?" Like when I was in CNN, like in my interview, they're like, "Can you write?" And it's funny because some people would think it's like a silly question. I was like, "What do you mean? Can I write? Of course I can write." But some people think they can, and you can't. Like just like the basics I learned at the Athletic. Okay, first 3 paths. Make sure you can kind of summarize the story there because that's the way you really need to hook them. What's the first sentence? Like, what's the are you covering? Yeah, if it's a kind of more of a newsy sports piece, if you covered all like the who, what, why, where, like just the basics. Like these are like still principles and things that are still like valued, still respected, still needed and wanted as well. So, and like even for me, like in my journey in the sports media, it's been predominantly writing as well. And there's definitely still a space for it, and definitely still like a demand for it as well, 100%. Because even all these companies that do the linear stuff, like the BBC, like CNN, like they have these TV shows, they still websites still. I mean, if you go on a BBC piece and you read the comments, thousands. Like people are still. I have faith for our society. People are still reading like a lot more than it's dying, definitely. But I don't think it's dying as drastically and as kind of as quickly as people think, if that makes sense.
Definitely. We're going to have to start wrapping up. I think we're running out of time. But just to summarize, if you got 3 tips for someone looking to break into the industry that you've learned from your experiences, what would they be? Just quick little
tips. Just don't be shy. Just, speak to people, reach out to people. If you're at an event, go and talk to someone. Just don't be shy. Something they always say to me is, say yes to anything. Any little, let me not say silly opportunity, but any opportunity that doesn't kind of get you buzzing straight away and you're like, oh, I don't know about that. You never know. You could go to that gig that doesn't seem that appealing or, attractive on paper and meet someone that can give you the next thing or the next thing. So that's definitely one. Just clue yourself up on the industry. So kind of, if you're applying to somewhere or, just know who the sports people are at, whether it's CNN, the BBC, Sky, know who the sports writers are, know what kind of stuff they cover. Like, know that CNN does more like longer featurey stuff, whereas like, Sky is more, or the Athletic will just do that, but more kind of day-to-day coverage. Like, just know different intricacies about different bits of the industry, I'd say, and because people can realize and notice that kind of stuff. But yeah, the main one is just don't be shy. Just get out there and just go and get it, because there's so many people out there that want to go and get it. So just be hungry for it, and don't give up.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time, Emile. I think that'll be everything for today. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.